Thank you, and happy Thursday. You're still awake? Are you a good illustration of a learning organization? You learn, and sometime down the road you might apply it. And I will challenge some of these aspects of a learning organization. I am a good friend of Peter Senge, and he was sitting next to Jay Forrester in Boston at MIT. And then both of us actually realized that a learning organization is like an old student staying too long at the university, drinking too much beer. So there might be something else down the road that we should look into, and I will share some of these slides with you in that kind of challenging perspective these last 30 minutes before we end. I was coming across a very interesting book about the longitude, which is a British story. And the British story about problems and challenges with navigation. And it was actually the British Navy that couldn't get back to the home base after some actions at sea. They were lost in action. And therefore, I started to see the same kind of story with companies, lost in action. So what do we do, actually? Well, that's where I started off, and then the more I got to learn about the longitude aspect, the more I realized how good it is. So I came up with this book many years ago, and you can still find it on corporatelongitude.com, and it is to discover the true position in the knowledge economy. And the measurement unit is not dollars, it's not euro, it's not financial currency. The currency to measure your navigation position is time units. And that's why the whole story of the longitude was actually that when the British Navy couldn't solve the problem, it was announced to be the longitude problem, and the solution to this longitude problem did not come from the knowledge-able sources like the universities, or not from the in-house knowledge of the Navy. It came from a knowledge outsider, a watchmaker. So this watchmaker, being a knowledge outsider outside the professions, came up with a totally innovative approach to measure the longitude dimension, and that is to measure the time. And this was almost 200 years ago, and it took a long time before it was agreed upon to be a measurement standard, and it was at late as 1916. And it's still used for navigation of the spaceship of today. So this story is very, very, very interesting, and this relates to the learning organization as well. How long time do you devote to the learning? How quickly can you learn? Can you use some of these technologies that we have heard about this afternoon to speed it up? And that is why I tend to see, and I saw when I was an executive, that we have to move from the learning organization to become an intelligent enterprise or an intelligent organization. It's not a teaching organization, it's not a learning organization, but it's an intelligent organization, an IO. And I will give you some aspects on that. But it also takes us to a totally new business model. And this new business model could be looked upon like this. What kind of business are these people in? Can you give me some idea? Chris? Sorry? Transport. What other business would you like to suggest that they are in, Gordon? Keep people happy. So they are in the happy business, yes. They are, actually. But isn't it interesting? There is one little weak signals about what this business is about. You can see it on the two persons, the two male persons. They are in this business. And this is how the intelligent enterprise is operating. Based on very weak signals, you discover what they are in. And are you an intelligent enterprise, or are you just recycling old shit? And that's what I would like to share with you. And this is also related to this corporate longitude as capital in waiting. How much capital in waiting, latent capabilities, is there in Thailand? A lot, I can tell you, a lot. And therefore, we can actually start to measure it. But does it help you if I would give you a number saying that it is probably somewhere around $7 trillion in capital in waiting? The leadership issues, how quickly can you grasp it? So then you're back to time as a measurement unit rather than the financial number. And this you can read more about this kind of new perspective in the article, and you can read on it on the web, euintangibles.net. The traditional perspective is tangible goods, and the new one is latent capabilities. The traditional perspective is best practice. The new perspective is best option. So you go from best practice to best option. And how quickly are you moving from best practice to best option? And that is the challenge we have in front of us, and there are a lot of people involved in this. And what you see down to the lower right corner is the leadership dimension with the venture capitalists, but also society entrepreneurship. Society entrepreneurship, on the borderline between the public and the private sector. And I will be back to that shortly. So how you combine all these four new dimensions of tangible and intangible, of goods and capabilities, becomes the space for the navigation. And the capital in waiting is, of course, a liability. It's not an asset. So what is the liability of Thailand? And who is in charge of the liability? Is it someone outside Thailand, or is it someone inside Thailand? Could it perhaps be you in this room who are in charge? Or do you say, no, it's not me, it's the circumstances? Then you might be like the British Navy, lost in navigation. So therefore, the issue is how do you cross the bridge from the present to the future? And that is also called futurizing. And it's a very subtle dimension. You can ask the question, why is the bridge red when you cross? And I know that some people in the room know this, but it's a cultural icon for trust. It's not the construction of the bridge per se. It's the meaning-making of the bridge with the red color to be a trustworthy icon and tool to move into the future. So this is a little symbol of the importance of the context and the culture for navigation. You can put it into this kind of navigation language with red and green, if you're familiar with that. The red space is intangible assets, intellectual property rights, knowledge, recipes, and culture. The green space, green field operations, which is an executive language, is to look for the networks and alliances and people out there. Not to form corporations, but to form federations. So there we can learn much more from the civil science and political science than from business administration. Political science is probably much more helpful for the future organization to take care of knowledge recipes, like in the old Roman days, where the knowledge recipe was the driver for the future. And this is another type of knowledge recipe. Do you recognize these people? Have you heard about ABBA, the dancing queen, and some of the money, etc.? This is intellectual entrepreneurship, where you're getting to good rhythm and a good music and a good story and a lot of joy. And Mamma Mia is one of the big hits of today, based on the story of ABBA. The problem in the old economy is this, that the productivity is decreasing. The value added and the efficiency of old economies is going down and increasing the liability, increasing the opportunity cost. So therefore, the labor productivity in the United States and Europe are actually at a big challenge. And this requires the new business model that we just touched upon this afternoon. 2.0. And perhaps the solution is to look for an intelligent value unit instead of strategic business unit.